we are going to collect data for the BeanLab, which we use as a simulation of the process of natural selection. The objective of this lab is to simulate a predator-prey relationship. We are going to be the predators. The prey are the lima beans. So there are different sized lima beans. There are large lima beans and there are small lima beans. We are also going to use some pinto beans as our habitat or our environment. You'll see the pinto beans are very noticeable. They are tannish colored and speckled, while the lima beans are pretty much white, but you can tell them apart by their size. So what we're going to do is pour all the pinto beans into our container. Once again, this will represent our environment or our habitat where our lima beans can hide. We're going to add 30 small lima beans and 30 large lima beans into that same container. We are going to complete this procedure twice, representing two different group members. I'm going to help you the first time through. The second time through, you're going to have to watch the videos, make your own observations, and fill out the data table. So each group member is going to get 1 minute to go hunting. They are hunting for lima beans. So if they pull out a lima bean from the container, they put that aside. If they happen to pull out a piece of habitat or a pinto bean, that goes back into the container. You can only pull one bean out at a time. After the time is up, we're going to count the number of organisms that were killed during this 1 minute time period. So you can see after this first trial that no small lima beans were collected or killed. So that means there's still 30 small lima beans in the container. We were able to get 10 large lima beans, which means there are still 20 large lima beans in the container. Remember, we started with 30 small and 30 large lima beans. We're going to do this again for a second 1 minute trial. Any lima beans we pull out count as a kill. Any pinto beans we pull out have to go back into the container. Okay, after the second 1 minute trial, you can see we were able to collect 2 small lima beans, which means there are now 28 small lima beans in the container. We were able to kill an additional 4 large lima beans, which now means we have 16 large lima beans remaining in the container. We're going to repeat this process one more time for 1 more minute. All right, after our third 1 minute trial, we were not able to kill any more small lima beans. So that still means there's 28 small lima beans in the container. We were able to get 4 more large lima beans, which takes the total of remaining large lima beans down to 12. So now if we total this up, we were able to kill 2 small lima beans. 28 small lima beans still remain in the container. As far as the large lima beans go, we killed 18 of those, which means only 12 large lima beans remain in the container. Hopefully you're starting to see how this is a simulation for the process of a natural selection in a predator-prey relationship. So here are the remaining lima beans after our first trial. You can see that we got all of our pinto beans left. That's our habitat. We have way more small lima beans than we do large lima beans. I wonder why that may be. Make sure you record these observations in the observation box underneath the data tables. Now it's time to repeat the process for our second partner. This time you will be responsible for filling out partner 2's data table. Make sure you make good observations while watching the video to collect all the data. After trial 1, here are the number of small and large lima beans that were removed from the habitat. They were killed by the predator. Make sure to fill out the first trial row of your data table here. Partner number 2 will now repeat the process again for 1 minute. All right, I circled the lima beans that were killed during the second trial. You can add that data to your data table. Remember, we started with 30 small lima beans and 30 large lima beans when you're trying to figure out how many are remaining. Trial number 3 for the final minute. Once again, I circled the lima beans that were killed during this final minute. You can see how many small lima beans and how many large lima beans were killed. After you finish the third row of your data table, you need to complete the totals. So how many total small lima beans were killed and how many are remaining? How many large lima beans were killed? How many are left remaining? Once again, there were 30 small lima beans and 30 large lima beans to begin with. Here's what it looked like inside of partner number 2's container after they were done with their 3 minutes. Once again, we got all of those pinto beans as our habitat. Still on this trial, we have way more small lima beans remaining than we do large lima beans. Make sure you record these observations in the observation box. That is it for the data collection of the BeanLab. Hopefully you can see how it simulates the process of natural selection for our lima beans. Which traits of our lima beans are more likely to get passed on? These are the types of questions you will answer by finishing the lab with the post-lab questions.